Alright guys, it is finally time to go over Suzuka. So Suzuka is the final job plus that we got from the Valentine's Day update. And with that update, we also got a brand new skin. So let's just take a quick look at the skin here. I think it's pretty nice. The pose she's doing right now is her job plus pose. All new job pluses get a unique pose, and this is Suzuka's. And they also get their own unique animation. And Suzuka's is nice, as are many others. Now, unfortunately, there is this shoulder clip with the hair, but I think we can overlook that because it comes from a free Nensou. So, much like the Poland outfit and the Noah outfit you will be getting, this is completely free. And there's nothing better than free. So before we get into the Nensou itself, let's take a look at her Kaigan. And for Suzuka's Kaigan, she is going to probably be a 5-all unit. In her initial Kaigan states with the first 3 gates, I would suggest a 5-5-5 Kaigan max. You don't have to max the 3rd gate if you'd rather use a Spica leader skill instead of a Suzuka leader skill. Suzuka is definitely going to be harder to field than Spica, especially back before she got her job plus, when she had to run a very squishy Dark Knight or Dark Cavalier setup, which obviously is very difficult if you're trying to get a no def achievement, especially because light units are often run into dark units, so Suzuka would be taking even more damage than normal. So 5-5-5 is definitely a viable option. Now for the 4th and 5th gates, gate 4, this is mostly just stats. There is something that you get for maxing it, and it has to do with a system I don't completely understand, but the basic gist of it is enemies are supposed to be given sin types. Like, let's say you have an enemy and they're classified as, let's say, Sloth. Well, if your gate 4 gives you additional Sloth damage, you would basically get an extra multiplier on that enemy. That is how I think it works. I don't really understand it, and I don't know how to check what kind of sin types enemies have. So, mostly, you just max it for stats. Now, her gate 5, this is a good gate. It is going to change her Tiger Tremor because her Samurai got updated into a mix of a Swordmaster plus with some Samurai skills mixed in, is my understanding of it. I honestly am not too familiar with the Swordmaster or Blademaster kit because I rarely ever use the kit. I never did get a Blade Master in Global until I finally got Setsuna a couple weeks ago, but by then she had been completely outclassed, and there's no point in using her if she's not like triple job maxed anyway. She's just gonna die, so I never actually job maxed her. And even in Japan, I just never really used them, but my understanding is it's a mix of the skills. But she definitely has Tiger Tremor, and Gate 5 is going to upgrade it into a light AoE, so you'll be able to hit extra damage on dark units. So that's good. I've said it before and I'll say it again, one of the key aspects of a good unit is being able to double up on your element to deal extra damage to units that are weak to you. And that's one of the marks of a good unit. And oftentimes, especially we'll see this with collab units, is they won't have on element attacks, and they will suffer for it greatly in the Japanese meta. So, let's start on the Nensou. So, for this Nensou, this is going to be very similar to the Dorothy Nensou, and they're basically just cut from the same cloth. 60 base HP, that's nothing much to write home about, but for Wadatsuma units, an additional 64 physical attack. That's super nice. It really is. And it's not like it's like super OP. It's not as good as Itsuki's fire exploit, definitely, but it's a lot of physical attack on a free Nensou. It's definitely worth it. You know, it's free. What can you expect? Now, this second group here, this is a Poland and Suzuka group, and it's going to give 11 speed and 12 slash evasion. And I know what you're thinking. What on earth is slash evasion doing on my Nensou? Well, you mostly use it for the speed. The real bonus is going to come in the next group, which is the Suzuka only group, which is going to give her 16 slash attack, as well as plus 20 counter attack. And remember, Suzuka does have that upgraded Avenger from her MA. which she will be using, so she actually can benefit from the counterattack up. Although it's not doing a significant amount of damage, it's just a nice little bonus. And once you have it max limit break, you get an additional 400 HP. And before you go on like max limit break, remember, this is a free Nensou. You're going to max limit break it, you're going to get the 400 HP. The stats you see here are the stats you will get when you get this Nensou. In fact, I think I had this before I even got to the EX. I think I had enough to max limit break it. So that's mostly it for the Nensou. It does have the skin attached to it, as I mentioned before. And let's move on to the gear. So the Ogre Slayer, I believe it's called in Global, but we just call it the Gold Katana in Japan, is probably going to be your best bet for a katana. It's going to give 50 attack, 30 dex, and 10 speed, which are all great stats, because you have to remember that Sword Master or Blade Master scale partially off of dex and speed. So being able to get the dex on another item is going to help your damage, if not a little bit. If you're like me, because I literally popped this Ogre Slayer today because I never got it out of a gear gacha, and I've just been collecting frags of it, and I didn't want to pop it just in case I got one out of the gear gacha. But I popped it today because I was doing the video today, and it's just finally time for me to pop it. If you don't have that, and you happen to have a Yomi VCR in hand, this will do in a pinch. It's 50 attack, 10 speed, and the other two stats that she cannot use, and she doesn't really get anything out of the master ability, or the weapon ability rather, either. So I guess in a pinch this will do, but it's definitely not your first option. Otherwise, any kind of physical attack object or gear piece is going to do. The Vita Ring is one of the best. It's got 50 attack. It's good. It's nice to have if you don't have a katana, but definitely I think by now everyone in Global should have an Ogre Slayer katana, because they put it in the Vita shop every other month instead of putting new things in. So even I have a 5-star Ogre Slayer in Global, and I really don't play Global as much these days because I've been spending most of my focus on Japan. As for the second gear slot, I'm still partial to regen armor on her. I adore regen armor, as you all know, and look at her HP. She's at 4k HP right now before a leader skill. With a good leader skill behind her, she's going to be rocking some pretty high HP. And with a 10% heal back rate, the regen armor is going to be healing her for like 500 or 600 HP a turn. So that's going to help mitigate a lot of damage. But if you don't want to run the regen armor on her, maybe Tamamo VCR, you need an piece of HP gear on her like you do anyone else. If Tamamo and Rainbow Armor are the other two suggestions I have, there really isn't anything else because she can't run Wonder Chronos. But yeah, Regen Armor is definitely probably going to be the go-to. Now, the VCR. This is the VCR from her free Nensou, and it's 8 light damage, 8 evade, and 8 hit rate. And it doesn't seem like a lot. The weapon ability, it costs 10% HP to use and is going to do an AoE 20% rate heal around you. Rate heal is always really good. You'll never hear me say anything bad about a rate heal. And this is actually a pretty good one. But it's not like it's overwhelming or anything. I won't go quite into the reasons yet, because I'm not in the map yet to show you why having evade on this is a good thing, but Suzuka is, for lack of a better word, going to become a slight evasion meme, because she's going to be boasting like a 38 evade or something when it's all maxed out and done. So it's definitely worth it to have this on if you want a little bit of extra damage and a little extra evade, but you don't have to have this VCR. Other options, you can run the Dex Pendant for the crit rate and extra Dex that'll go above and beyond what the Gold Katana can provide. Saint Meteor for extra jewel gain, because I don't think she has any other jewel gain in her kit. Having extra jewel gain is going to give her some extra tempo and maybe get an extra attack in here or there. Teddy is the exact same thing, just a bit higher of jewel gain. And this will help offset her squishiness a little bit by making up some Ellie resist that she's going to lose to a skill that I will go over once we're in the map. there really isn't anything else I can think of. Well, I guess if you really wanted to, instead of regen armor, you could run the red Nina bunny, because it gives you about 400 HP and 10 dark exploit. But I still think regen armor is better. But if you want a little bit of extra damage, go for it. That is actually a piece of gear that'll give you HP and damage on Suzuka. So I can't really think of many other pieces of gear. The teacup is always a good option if you're raiding, but in global you're definitely not going to be raiding anytime soon. Alright, so let's move on to the loadout. So for the loadout, you're definitely going to be going with the Job Plus main, but you can either go with the Job Plus sub, or you can go with your Dark Cavalier sub for the Retribution Blade and the 3-turn attack buff. You're definitely going to want your Avenger reactive. The Blade Master reactive is just kind of bad. It does like no damage, and the only saving grace is that it pierces. It has a 100% defense ignore, which is good if you're like killing a metal ratty. But like there are other ways to deal with metal ratties that just aren't going up and hoping they attack into your counter at a single range. Avenger is definitely the way to go, in my opinion. You're going to be running Overdrive. This is a given. This is the upgraded skill she's going to get from her Gate 2, so Overdrive is a must. And you will then use the, what's it called? Is it called Regal Blade, I believe, in Global? I think we just used the term OGS in Japan, but anyways, Regal Blade, it's going to give you attack, a little bit of evade, and it's going to drop your speed a little bit. But because Suzuka has some extra speed on the Nensou, and she just has extra speed from having the Job Plus and not being a Dark Cavalier, the speed drop is actually not that noticeable, and she boasts actually a relatively high speed for a Regal Blade user. She's definitely a lot better than she was. If you do want to sub out the Regal Blade, though, you could go for, let's say, a 5 move for jump. You definitely lose a lot of physical attack here, but you're going to get around a lot better. And really any of these other passives are options instead of Regal Blade, but if you're looking to maximize your damage, Regal Blade is the way to go. So let's hop into a map, shall we? And we're going to take a look at what she can do. Just gotta find a, I don't need this anymore. I can fix that later. I am going to be running a Spica leader skill today, because I don't have Suzuka's yet. And that's going to be a 20% attack and 20% all damage leader skill, instead of a 30% attack, 20% all damage leader skill. So she wasn't going to be doing as much damage as she would do if she had her own leader skill, but you're going to still see a pretty significant amount of damage out of her. So the one thing I'm going to say is you are not going to see absolutely nuts numbers out of Suzuka. What Suzuka does is she does high consistent damage, and to start with, you see this one cast 24 jewel skill. Well, what this does is it's going to give you 40 slash damage at the cost of, I believe it's 25 Ellie resist. Which is why running the Teddy isn't necessarily a bad idea. And it's also going to give you an extra 10 evade. And with this, Suzuka's evade is going to hit 38 with the VCR, which is a respectable amount of evade, but not a reliable amount of evade. Do not count on evading attacks, because to evade attacks I suggest no less than 45-50% evade with an evade reactive, and she does not have that. But it is definitely a good option to start with this, because as far as I can tell, I don't think this wears off. I think it'll stay until you either die or you get cleansed by an enemy. So you use it once and it just stays there. There is no expiration in the database, and I checked it for a couple turns and it didn't seem like it had expired. So here's an example of a regular attack from Suzuka, and she's doing over 3,000 damage with a normal attack. That's a lot of freaking damage. Like, that is a lot of damage. So let's go ahead and take a look at what she can do, and I accidentally stepped away too far, so I guess I'll move here and waste a turn. Unfortunately, because of all the extra stuff I have to go over, these are very long, and it's very difficult to have to redo them repeatedly, so mistakes aside, we're just going to go with it. And wait for all of them to move. Alright, so now that Suzuka has gotten herself some jewels, let's take a look at the rest of her kit. So I'm going to leave this light skill for later. Let's take a look at this. So this is Tiger Tremor. And as you can see, we're doing quite a bit of damage, and she only has her 40 slash buff. So this is a good amount of damage for an AoE, but we can do better. And this is the line attack that's on the end of the Swordmaster kit, and we're looking at like 6k damage. Not bad. Now if we go onto the sub, we get these, I think this is where the Samurai kit kind of comes in, because you have like status down and stuff. And I guess that'll be okay if you have like a boss you're dealing with. And after you get through all those skills, you go down here and there's this 28 jewel skill here, which I'm going to go ahead and use because this is going to be, I believe, a 50% attack buff. And now we're going to get to see Suzuka's actual damage. And for some odd reason, my spick is moving really fast tonight, it feels like. Alright, so here we go. We're at the pinnacle of Suzuka damage. And we're at 8k with the line AoE, almost 7k with Tiger Tremor, and 12k with the single target nuke. And I'll show you the nuke afterwards because I forgot to show it off. But this is not going as I planned. Anyways, I'm just going to go ahead and use it, because I'm not going to have enough jewels after I'm done with it to show it off again. But so as you can see, Suzuka is going to do super high consistent damage, but 12k is nothing to write home about in Japan. Now, don't get me wrong, that is very good. It is a great attack, and the fact that she has that attack is excellent, because it'll basically replace the Guernica nuke. Although I don't think it does as much damage, you do lose the charge time, and you get a faster unit overall that is definitely easier to use than she was before. As far as whether you should invest in Suzuka, it is a definite yes. She is going to be at least on the upper echelon of good when she gets her Kaigan in Global, and later on when she does get her Job Plus, it's going to boost her up even further. One of the qualms I have with the light units is that, while there's a lot of them that are super powerful, there's very few of them that stand out in the way some units and other elements do. Like, when you look at the fire element, you take one look at Black Masa, and you're like thinking, this character is insane. But the only character I think about that in, like, light is probably Cheryl. All the other light units just seem like a tier below. But like in fire, you have Black Masa, you have Daisy, and just a bunch of other really, really high top tier units that just perform significantly better than the rest of them. And you can feel it in the way they play. And light just never really seemed to have that, so I always welcome stronger light units to the table. Itsuki was definitely a better upgrade overall. Itsuki definitely got more out of the Job Plus. But Suzuka has definitely benefited a lot. So, I unfortunately don't have much else to say on Suzuka at the moment. Her kit is a lot more straightforward than Itsuki's was, because Itsuki gained all these skills and stuff. Suzuka basically got a retooled Swordmaster kit, but that's okay because it's better than Dark Cavalier, and she definitely has the stats and HP now to survive in a battle at least a lot better than she could before. One other thing I wanted to note is that 8 light damage VCR can be used on any unit. There is no unit restrictions on it, so any unit can use it. naturally you're going to use it on light units. You're not going to use that on a water unit. You're not going to use it on a fire unit. You're going to use it on a light unit. But I'm just putting it out there. Think about units like Sieg that are going to want to benefit from the light damage and the evade, because it's very likely that Gumi is going to push Sieg in a dodge direction, in a evade direction. So having that light and evade VCR is very likely to benefit him in the future. And if they ever push Sieba that way, you could definitely see that being used on Sieba. So I wouldn't count it out just because the stats on it seem kind of low. It definitely has a use and a niche that could be exploited, especially in global with Sieg. So that's all I have to say for today on Suzuka. And that will basically wrap up the Valentine's Job Pluses for today. I really don't know when I'll be making my next set of videos for, because I'm like working for the next 8 days or something. So if you want to make sure you're around to see them, definitely make sure to subscribe so it appears in your feed, because I don't post all of the stuff to Reddit. I will post this one to Reddit just because I know everyone really likes Suzuka, and she's one of the favorite units in the game. But I don't always post my videos there, so if you want to make sure that you can actually see them, definitely make sure to subscribe. I'm not into the whole begging for subscribers thing, but I just wanted to say it because I'm not making them every day, so the schedule's a lot more sporadic, and because of the way the YouTube algorithm works, it's less likely it's going to appear in a suggested feed. So I'm just throwing it out there. Thanks for watching as always, guys, and if you have any questions, make sure to put them in the comments, and I'll do my best to answer them. And I hope to see you next time.